Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the DLF Dynasty Trade Show, the best trade show in the universe.
We're stepping up in the world, huh?
In the universe, we're stepping up. I found a way to up our game.
Yeah. That's
a
impressive.
lie. There's no way to up our game. I'm just upping the label that I'm giving our maxed out game. Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse, Addison Hayes at AmazeHayes_. And I mean, let's just get started, right? Today, we are doing the regular season's over. Pretty much. I have to.
I would think so.
Yeah, like on your average league, you're hitting the playoffs.
Mhm.
So what we wanted to do was take a step back, look at the top scorers of 2021 at the different positions: quarterback, running back, wide receiver. With the caveat that we already did Jonathan Taylor a few weeks ago, so we didn't want to just do him again. So we went with RB2 in Austin Ekeler, plus he's a guy that both of us really like. So we're going to be absolutely fine talking about him. So the top scorer at quarterback we have as Josh Allen. Josh Allen in a 12-team Superflex league on the Trade Analyzer comes in at 921.1 points. That's a lot of points. Here's a trade. Here's an interesting trade. Straight up, Josh Allen for Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley, and J.K. Dobbins. Individually, Trevor Lawrence, 666.9. I can't even say that straight without stuttering. We'll just call it 667. Calvin Ridley, 298.1, holding on to that value. And J.K. Dobbins, 293.7. After a small package adjustment, which honestly is kind of small for what it's worth, about 70 points, a total of 1,188.2. As we always say on this show, you should be paying up to get the one best player. And that's what this is doing, right? The calculator is saying you're pretty much giving an extra guy. Like, this is a buy two, get one free, know, on Josh Allen. And I feel that. Now, my question to you, Addison, is how do you feel about the amount of risk that is coming back to you in this deal? It's scary a little bit, right?
That's a lot of risk, dude. That's a lot of risk. I don't like it. Even at the analyzer, like you said, it's a buy two, get one free. That's a lot of risk on that side.
Yeah, because, I mean, Trevor Lawrence, he's a rookie on a not good team. He's not going to do great. That's just fine. He can and probably will get better. Not that I want to root for a man to lose his job, but Urban Meyer is just not helping. So
he's not it. He's not it.
Yeah. Calvin Ridley, I love him.
Me too.
Addison was making fun of me before we started recording that I still have this blank wall behind me because I was still too lazy to frame my signed jerseys and hang them up. One of those jerseys is Calvin Ridley. So I still love that guy. I want him to come back. Get well, buddy. J.K. Dobbins, another player I love. He was my favorite running back coming out that year. I get Jonathan Taylor was better, but Dobbins was my favorite. I get it. An ACL is not the big deal. Like, to me, he's the least risky player. An ACL isn't a big deal in the NFL anymore. He's coming back to a very good offense where Devonta Freeman is doing really well, at least fantasy-wise, because that's what we care about. The only time I can see this being a worthwhile trade is if my team is complete and utter trash, but I have Josh Allen and I need to break it apart. I need to get in that case, I don't go for Calvin Ridley because you're jumping to a 26-year-old wide receiver who might retire. I mean, we know nothing. But value-wise, again, I get it. This does make sense value-wise. I just don't feel good about that other side.
I wish that it was a different quarterback other than Trevor Lawrence. I wish it was a different wide receiver other than Calvin Ridley. If you are doing, like what you said, like the breaking down of your best asset on your team, because Trevor Lawrence just isn't doing it at all. Like he hasn't really shown anything either. And actually the video that just came out, we're recording on Wednesday, the video that came out today about my 4 observations for Dynasty from this past week, I actually talked about Trevor Lawrence in one of those observations and saying that we have early signals that Trevor Lawrence is actually going to be a bust, or maybe not be like a bust like Josh Rosen is just like a complete bust, but like a Sam Darnold bust where, he's still a starter. He's there. He's not really doing much for you. and it's not really looking good for fantasy. And we're already starting to see that from Trevor Lawrence. So if you didn't watch that video, go check that out. You can see kind of my whole entire breakdown on that. But I don't like Trevor Lawrence. I feel like you could swap him with Tua or, God, we always go to Kirk Cousins. Honestly,
But I mean, let's
Deshaun
try
Watson.
and stay young because it seems like that's the point of this.
Yeah, I would honestly rather have Deshaun
25.
Watson. Would
Oof.
you rather have Deshaun Watson here?
No, because I know Trevor Lawrence is playing.
Fair, but I think the ceiling for Deshaun Watson.
Well, yeah, because Deshaun Watson was like a top 2 quarterback at one point, but that's okay. But that's a little tougher because quarterbacks are very person specific, and I'm in the trade analyzer right now looking at values, and there's no one around Trevor Lawrence's age that has a close value. The quarterback above him the value is actually very different with Tua. Actually, let me real quick look to pull that up. It's only 386.2.
What? He's half of Lawrence, and
people are not very into Tua. Yes, it's wrong, by the way. Absolutely wrong. But I mean, let's talk about wide receivers for a second. We talked about Ridley being 298 at 298 as well, and 299 and 301. 3 wide receivers. If you were to replace Ridley with either Michael Pittman, T. Higgins, or Deontay Johnson, this is a completely new trade, and I'd probably just say yes to it.
Yeah, money. I'm in.
Okay, that's good because at least it shows in a direction that makes sense. Because if you're going to move away from a 25-year-old stud quarterback to break apart, you don't want to get the. I love Calvin Ridley. I'll say it over and over again. You don't want the almost 27-year-old hopefully playing wide receiver because you're not gonna be able to move him very easily, even if that is your object. Mm-hmm. Your move, your prime directive.
He has to come back, and that at this point is going to be 2022. And so your return on investment here, if that is your plan, is like a whole year down the road.
Yeah, it's going to be a while before that pays off. All right, the next trade we have is still 12-team Superflex. Oh, wow, there's more to this. I guess you don't really have to. Okay. So here's what I thought I saw because I didn't scroll yet. I saw Josh Allen for Mac Jones and a late first. I'm like, I get that. And then I scroll down and Michael Thomas and Chris Carson were added on. What's funny is the package adjustment pretty much gets rid of those two's value. Anyway.
I was going to say it's still Mac Jones for late 2022 first.
Neither of us are very at all in on Michael Thomas. And man, I love Chris Carson, but neck fusion surgery on a running back, for his own good, he should probably just hang it up a little bit. He got that big contract. He has enough money to live his life. Just go, not be paralyzed, buddy. But again, trade analyzer values 921.1 for Josh Allen. Mac Jones only at 339, regardless of the hype that's going on. A late first at 224. Michael Thomas 152.7. Chris Carson 80.4. A total is 660.7. Now here's the thing. I think
Russ,
Mac Jones is.
Before you say anything, can I share a secret with you?
Mm-hmm.
This trade occurred in mid-November in Trade Addicts 9.
Yeah, that sounds like something that would happen in Trade Addicts leagues. We've said it before. When it's a 4-for-1, chances are you stick with the 1 anyway. But man, I don't remember seeing this because okay. Right now, not even a month and a half ago or whenever you said this happened, like
mid-November.
A month ago. Okay.
Yeah.
I forgot what you said and I forgot what month we were in. Not a great combination. Mac Jones in a first. Man, late first? No. I'm going to take it back. That's nowhere close. Okay. This is easily Josh Allen for me because Josh Allen is awesome and doing very well. And again, 25. He's a whole 2 years older than Mac Jones. So to take that step back to get Mac Jones in a first, again, you are taking the swing on Michael Thomas coming back, being Michael Thomas, and being able to flip that. And Chris Carson, I don't know, was probably just making it into like, hey, 3 players in a pick, 4 pieces for one, which in case I don't think it really helps all that much. To me, I get it. If you want to break apart your assets, if you want to do whatever, but I would need way more than Mac Jones in a late first for Josh Allen, no matter the hype on Mac Jones.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I saw this and I saw it was Trade Addicts 9. I was like, oh, I had to throw this one in here because I agree with you that this one is so easily Josh Allen that I was wondering kind of like what happened. Because Mac Jones in a late first Michael Thomas. I'm getting more and more into buying Michael Thomas at like a super cheap price
Hmm.
because I see what like AJ Green has been doing this year, and I think that Michael Thomas could kind of do that kind of same thing. Or like Odell Beckham, how he just switched teams to the Rams and now he's like a wide receiver 2 again. And he's really, really good. So I'm buying back more into buying Michael Thomas, but not in this kind of situation here.
Yeah, not at all in that kind of
Um,
situation.
yeah, and I love Mac Jones. I was all aboard the Mac Jones train all spring. It's just he's not there yet for fantasy because he still only needs to throw it like 20-25 times a game. You
Or
know,
three times a
he's
game.
or or 3 times a game and the Patriots win. I mean, that's and he doesn't have any weapons. And I saw it was trending on Twitter, Allen Robinson going to the Patriots in free agency.
Everybody goes to the
And
Patriots in free agency. Every wide receiver goes to the Patriots in free agency.
exactly. Yeah, I'm not none of these pieces are there yet for me to pull the trigger on sending Josh Allen for them.
And real quick, I did scroll back to see who the two teams were that did this trade, and neither of them ended up making the playoffs. So
But they used a first rounder for a team that did make the playoffs.
not their first rounder, but
Yeah.
not the point. All right, we're gonna move on because clearly get someone more established if you're trading away a stud like Josh Allen, especially if it's by himself and you're just downgrading.
Right.
Let's move on to Austin Ekeler. Let's just take a second to be like, oh, Austin Eckler's awesome.
He's so good.
So good. Okay, that was fun. 12 team, 12 team, one quarterback. We have Austin Ekeler for AJ Brown, a 23 first and a 23 second. Okay, this is interesting because AJ Brown's value I don't think is super updated in this. Like I think we need December's ADP to be finished to get shoved in here, and AJ Brown's trade value is falling pretty decently.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, a
this
lot.
this trade is Austin Ekeler, AJ Brown, 23 first, 23 second. Austin Ekeler comes in at 692.4. AJ Brown himself, 738. The future first, 253.3. The future second, 91.3. Total, 1,082.7. Okay, so here's my thing. I'm kind of into selling AJ Brown right now. I'm always into buying Austin Ekeler, but I think the value on the AJ Brown side is still just way better. Even though I don't
Really?
agree with how high AJ Brown's value is in here, I still think the value of a 24-year-old wide receiver that we've seen be a stud, a 23 first, which is almost equal to a 22 first at this point,
Right.
and a second's a second. But man, if we up Eckler's value a little bit just because we think he's more, drop AJ Brown's value a little bit, they still sort of meet in the middle. Like to me, AJ Brown in the second for Ekeler would probably just be an easy accept. I think a non-competing team would take, and we could move on.
Yeah. No, I think you're right on there too. I was really interested to see that AJ Brown was still valued over Austin Ekeler, which I think honestly might still be the case.
It
in
will
December.
be just because Austin Eckler's a 26-year-old
26-year-old running back versus a 24-year-old wide
but
receiver.
The
We've
amount
seen
of points you're
production.
getting for this year and most likely next year as well, it's that freaking draft capital thing, man. Like, it doesn't matter that they paid him. It doesn't matter that they still use him so much. AJ Brown, first round, early second round pick, right? And Austin Ekeler, undrafted, I think, right?
Undrafted. It took him 4 years to get the workload from Melvin Gordon. But
yeah,
now he's the RB2 right now, and it's him and Jonathan Taylor, and it's not really all that close for all the other running backs out there.
Put some respect on that man's name.
Right.
Let's see if this next trade does. Austin Ekeler and Latavius Murray for J.K. Dobbins, a 22 first, and DJ Chark. Total of the Austin Ekeler side, 702. Total of the J.K. Dobbins side, 850.2. Okay, so Austin Eckler's worth 692.4. J.K. Dobbins, 430.5. And the 22 first, 354.8. So we have a total of 702.2 to 850.2. And I think we've hit that spot where you pay a little over on the other side to get the better player. And next year, we have a healthy J.K. Dobbins. I think at that point, Austin Ekeler and J.K. Dobbins will probably be equal in value because you'll have a 27-year-old running back and a healthy 23-year-old running back.
Yep.
But this is right now. So if you're trying to score points, I would absolutely send J.K. Dobbins and a first. I would want something. Okay, that's a lie. I think I'd want something a little better than Lat Murray coming back. Like someone that may have a chance to get in my lineup, sort of.
What if it
Almost.
was like a Sony Michel?
So yeah, I was thinking more like Devonta Freeman, a guy has zero value next year.
Keeping it with the Baltimore running backs. Okay.
It was just the first guy that came to mind where it's just like, okay, this guy's going to score me points. And that's it for this year. And next year he's gone. Because Lat Murray, even if Freeman goes out, you're never going to really want to start him. But I get it. I get exactly where this deal is going. And yeah, I guess if I'm desperate and like I'm in the playoffs, I'm like, oh crap, I just lost X running back, because you could name almost any of them and you'd be right. Except for Austin Ekeler and Jonathan Taylor. Though I did just get booted from the SFB playoffs because, hey, week 14, Jonathan Taylor was on a bye. And Carson Wentz.
Rep.
And Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki. And I had like 6 people on bye. I did not pay attention.
Sheesh.
Yeah, it was
You should have just had a bye week like I did, and you could have been all right.
Moving on. Okay, so no, I like the idea of this trade. I think it's a bit of an overpay, but I think at this point in the season, that's where we are. You know, you have to overpay a little bit to get that production. And I love pulling in Dobbins and a first. And I mean, DJ Chark is a dart, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, I think he's fine. I agree with you. If you need the production from Austin Ekeler, you're 100% sending a running back who has upside and ceiling, but isn't producing for you at all. And obviously, if that's your first and you end up winning, that's the 112 in a weaker class in a 1 quarterback league. So that all works out, and winning is worth it, and you're all good. Other side, like we said, J.K. Dobbins and Austin Ekeler are going to be valued very similarly in, honestly, probably like 4 months.
Yeah.
Just
that first video.
Yeah, we already see videos of Cam Akers. Just wait till we see videos of J.K. Dobbins off an ACL. It's gonna be there, and then you get the first on top, which I just tried to kind of crap on, but you know, it's still a first at the end of the day, and you could always flip that or use it, or maybe it's not actually the 112 and it's like the 109, and you kind of won a little bit.
Yeah. But again, it's the kind of move that we're trying to talk about, not the specific one. So let's okay. Austin Ekeler, straight up. Christian McCaffrey, and in parentheses, this trade appears multiple times in the last month.
Yes. Yeah, I kept scrolling. I thought I kept seeing repeat trades, and it was like 3 or 4 times in the last month.
All day, I would send Christian McCaffrey for Austin Ekeler right now.
Wow, really?
All day.
I wasn't sure what side you'd be on this.
Well, first of all, I don't buy running backs. It's just like against my DNA, and I share a team with certain other DLFers that will remain nameless. But John Bosch and Matt Price made me trade for Christian McCaffrey in a league, and
they will remain nameless. But John Bosch and Matt Price.
You ruined my straight face. Yeah, so we traded for Christian McCaffrey, and I hated it, and IR, and that's why. Like, first of all, McCaffrey's 25, Eckler's 26. I'm throwing age out the window.
You're gaining a year, Russ. You're gaining a year.
I don't care. Look, it seems like Ekeler likes to miss 1 or 2 games this season, and that's absolutely fine. Fingers crossed it happens in the middle instead of the playoffs. But man, like, I get that Christian McCaffrey is worth about 20 to 30 points when he's playing. Worried how often that's going to happen in the future. This is 2 straight years where he had to get shelved. And will he come back to even like an 80% workload at this point? Like, Chuba's looking okay. It doesn't need to be the Christian McCaffrey show. Plus, we're going to have another new offensive coordinator coming in because Joe Brady got scapegoated real hard.
Yeah. It's just Christian. I remember Christian McCaffrey. Like, I remember Christian McCaffrey and how
I feel like that needs to be a t-shirt.
I remember Christian McCaffrey because 80% Christian McCaffrey is still better than 100% of the running backs in the league. Like, I honestly believe that. Or maybe there's like 2 or 3 that can compete with 80% Christian McCaffrey, because like even the games where he not counting the games where he left in like the first quarter with injury, but every single game over the past 2 years where he played the entire game, he would score 25 or more fantasy points. He was a top 3 running back, and he like didn't score touchdowns at all during those games, and he was still scoring 25 fantasy points. So he is just so ridiculously insane, and it's Christian McCaffrey, and we're gonna get to the point where his value is going to be so low that I'm going to start using my mantra of what if this guy stayed healthy for the full year, and what would that look like for Christian McCaffrey, and taking the bet and the swing that he will stay healthy. I'm going to get to that point with him with his value. And the best thing about that is I already know what Christian McCaffrey looks like on a full season if he stays healthy, and that is like 420 fantasy points.
And wide receiver, we have Cooper Kupp, who is the man far and away the wide receiver one. 12 team, 1 quarterback, Cooper Kupp and Rob Gronkowski for T. Higgins, a 22 second, and Hunter Henry. Cooper Kupp comes in at 650.9, Gronk, 43.1, for a total of 694. T. Higgins, 477.8, future second, 113.5, Hunter Henry, 59.5. For after adjustment, total of 622.7. Man, I mean, like, take the tight ends out of it, I guess. Though, like, man, imagine right now getting Cooper Kupp and Rob Gronkowski for your competing team. I would easily pay T. Higgins a second and Hunter Henry for Cooper Kupp and Rob Gronkowski right now. And I love T. Higgins.
Okay, this is so easily Cooper Kupp, right?
Yeah, it really is. And the thing is, like, I'm trying to find a way to rationalize saying, but I really do love getting T. Higgins. T. Higgins is scoring very well right now, and I think he will score better next year with a full season under the belt of the Chase Higgins duo, both being utilized like they are.
Sure.
But even still, man, I don't care that Cooper Kupp's going to be 46 next year. There's no reason for his production to change. He doesn't need speed. Age isn't going to affect him that much. Gronk might be out of the league next year. I think there's a decent chance that could happen. But at this point, I still don't care, because you're never going to feel good about Hunter Henry. No. So still, we go back down to T. Higgins in a second for Cooper Kupp. Would you feel different if it was T. Higgins in a first? Let's call it a mid first.
No. Dude, I'm taking Cooper Kupp. This is so easy.
If my team's bad, I would trade Cooper
sure.
Kupp for T. Higgins in a first. Just may just be personal bias being slammed on the table on that one.
But here's my problem. Like, so also in that same video, the one that I talked about with Trevor Lawrence, Dynasty Observations, that dropped today, Wednesday.
All right, we get it. You make videos.
I talked about Cooper Kupp in one of the other ones, and I said, and I asked the question, is Cooper Kupp a top 3 Dynasty wide receiver right now?
No.
I honestly think that you can make the argument for it behind Jefferson and Chase. I won't, but he's 28 years old. That's really going to be the only thing that prevents him from being a top 3 wide receiver.
No respect will ever get given to slot receivers. You will never see a slot receiver as a top 3 wide receiver.
But what's so insane is that slot receiver, like him being a slot receiver, is what is going to keep him producing for the next 3, 4, 5 years. He's tied with Matthew Stafford. He's in the best offense, one of the best offenses in the league. And Robert Woods just tore his ACL. They have Odell Beckham Jr. They have a bunch of other weapons that, can be thrown to, but also prevent coverage from really going to Cooper Kupp in the slot. And he's just so freaking good. Like, he's open on every play. And how does he not score elite fantasy production over the next 3 or 4 years with Matthew Stafford and the Rams outside of injury? On top of the fact that he was the wide receiver 4 2 years ago. Like in 2019, he was a wide receiver 4. We've seen this similar-ish kind of production. Obviously not. He's on pace for the best wide receiver fantasy season of all time. But we saw elite production from him before. And the only reason that he's not a top 3 Dynasty wide receiver is because he's 28 years old.
And a slot receiver.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, no slot receiver will ever work their way up that high.
Yeah. Which,
I mean makes no sense. It's absolutely biased, but
it's insane. But I think this trade is so far and away easily Cooper Kupp. And what's also crazy to me about this is that this is not this is only this kind of trade. Like, this kind of price was only paid for Cooper Kupp once. Like, this trade happens all the time in the last week for Cooper Kupp in the DLF Trade Finder. Like, there was like Brandon Ayuk and a second and a third for Cooper Kupp, and like all these other like such mediocre trades to get Cooper Kupp that it's insane to me that his price is so low for having the best fantasy wide receiver season of all time right now because he's 28 years old. That's the only reason why. And if that's the price, dude, I'm slamming buying Cooper Kupp everywhere.
All right, well, let's move on and see how you feel about this one. 12-team Superflex. Would you give up DeAndre Swift and a first for Cooper Kupp and Mark Andrews?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So Cooper Kupp 523.6, Mark Andrews 273.4, total of 797. DeAndre Swift 672.3. So technically in the analyzer more valuable. The pick 354.8, more valuable than Mark Andrews. But I think a first for Mark Andrews is kind of where we're at, especially because he's like the top of that tier that isn't the top tier tight ends, in which case you have to at least, even in non-premium, you probably have to pay a first for him.
He might be in that top tier based on what he's doing this year. He's the tight end one. We weren't going to do the tight end one, but he is the tight end one this year.
Yeah, I still don't know if I buy it. I'm sorry. Like it's a huge switch from what he's done the past 3 years. Even though I know he has put up points, it's not really the same. So I need to see next season of him doing this again, and then I'll tinker a little bit with the rankings I don't actually do.
Sure.
But okay. I would, yeah. I get that the analyzer has this as very far off, but I think I pretty easily give up Swift at first for these two guys. Like, I love Swift. I really do. I think he's probably a top 3 running back in Dynasty at this point. But
yeah, he's up there.
Like you just said, you're getting top tier wide receiver scoring out of Cooper Kupp, top tier scoring out of Mark Andrews. And yeah, you're right with Kelsey and Waller getting older and Waller getting hurt, Kelsey not having the Kelsey season. They're both dropping in value this offseason. It's just
and Kyle Pitts not like it's still all hype and ceiling right now for him. Like
we saw the tight end.
We got the taste of it. Yeah, but some people are going to be like, listen, I'll take the Mark Andrews career that I've already seen out of him versus the Kyle Pitts upside.
Yeah, but those people probably don't have Pitts up at 1 in the first place.
That's also true.
Okay, but yeah, so to me, this is pretty. I would honestly easily take Kupp and Andrews, especially because if you're rebuilding going to Swift, I mean, unless you're going to flip him anyway. To me, like I want those points, and the fact that it's more stable to me, those points with Kupp, Andrews being what he is, as opposed to Swift, who people like but still won't seem to trust because he's on the Lions.
Yeah.
So while he is a top 3 running back to me in DLF ADP, I don't know if the trade value is there for it. So even though we're talking a difference of over 200 points, 230 points, 0.1, man, I'm still on the Kupp and Andrews side.
Yeah. But I think this is much more along what you should be paying to acquire Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
Or the type of value you should be getting back for Cooper Kupp, not the whole.
T. Higgins.
You're on board with T. Higgins in a second because you really like T. Higgins.
Oh, no. I am not on board with that. I was trying to find a way to say I was, and I couldn't do it.
But if you replace T. Higgins with like any of those wide receivers kind of in that range, like Michael Pittman, Chase Claypool, even like Amari Cooper or Mike Evans, like any of them, like I'm just so easily taking Cooper Kupp, you know? And I think this DeAndre Swift trade is so much better in terms of where his value actually should be because of the production that he's giving you week in and week out is absolutely insane. And he might not do this next year because he's on pace for like 2,000 receiving yards and 15 touchdowns. He's obviously probably not going to do that again next year. But if he's a top 3 wide receiver in 2022 because he has 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns, like that's
you're not sad about
still so easily worth it.
All right, let's keep scrolling to horrible trades time. Okay. 12-team 1 quarterback. We have an Austin Ekeler trade here. Austin Ekeler and Elijah Mitchell for Cam Akers. For Cam Akers, a 22 5th, Giovanni Bernard and Amir Abdullah. Let's just say, taking away package adjustment, the other side is 341, and Austin Ekeler is 692.4. Let's just put that out there by itself.
Yep.
Wow. I don't care if you're rebuilding and you're like, oh no, I have to get rid of this 27-year-old running back. And cool, you're going to downgrade to a 22-year-old running back in Cam Akers. No, no, no.
I also saved this trade to say this thing on the YouTube channel because I think this is where we're at. I would take Elijah Mitchell over Cam Akers in Dynasty.
Yep. I'm there.
Are we there? Is that where we're at right now?
I'm there just because with something like Cam Akers and a torn Achilles and something that we've literally never seen much. I mean, hey, Deontay Foreman scored a touchdown this week. It's happening, baby. So we've never really seen a player who tear his Achilles and come back to what he was. I'm fine missing out on the value of getting Cam Akers now. If he comes back to what he was, I'll pay the wait and see tax. That's my big thing. Elijah Mitchell is worrying me with the amount of nicks he gets and how it keeps him out of games. Mm-hmm. But when he plays, he's an accidental 20 points because that's the Shanahan system. So I'm good with that. So yeah, I think at this point I probably would take Elijah Mitchell over Cam Akers. But would absolutely okay in 8 months paying Elijah Mitchell plus to go get Cam Akers back.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I saw this. I was like, yes, I get to have an Elijah Mitchell fandom moment here. Talk about him over everybody's favorite Cam Akers. And obviously this is horrible because Austin Ekeler's on the one side. And yeah.
Yeah, that's not great. Not great.
That's not a good one.
It's always funny that like we end the show on horrible trades and I'm supposed to be like, energy closing the show. And it's just like, man, guys, come on. Well, everyone, this has been another fantastically wonderful, amazing episode of the DLF Trade Show. I am your host, Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse. He is also your host, Addison Hayes at AmazeHayes_. See you next time.